Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations near the edge of extinction. We'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals. And then we'll spend a chunk of the show opening and holding a space for contemplation and awe. We'll perform a kind of meditative sound bath, soundscape of gentleness, quietude, reflection, and maybe mourning. There is a very low likelihood that any of these species will survive the 21st century. So perhaps we might acknowledge their passage with a moment of our attention, recognition of our kinship, with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Principe Scops Owl. The Principe Scops Owl is a critically endangered avian species native to Principe Island of the Democratic Republic of Tome and Principe, which is roughly 150 miles off the western coast of Africa near Equatorial Guinea. The Principe Scops Owl is a newly described species just added to our scientific taxonomy in 2018. Scientists use the word described to mean the process of studying flora and fauna with enough depth to make the case that a living being is distinct from all other species. And so by distinct, we mean that the species cannot viably reproduce with any other species. So for example, the Principe Scops Owl cannot breed with the nearby African Scops Owl to produce fertile offspring. And so then going back to the word describe, we use this in place of words like discovery, in service of accuracy, and I would argue also out of respect for indigeneity. There are reports of a Scops Owl on Principe by local inhabitants dating back to 1928. And it was surely quote unquote discovered even before that. So we use the nomenclature describe to note really specifically when a species is entered via scientific consensus into the taxonomic record of our tree of life. It's pretty exciting to have a newly described avian species, just so recently. And to me, it's a rich reminder of the breadth of our blue planet's biodiversity and how much more we have to learn. And that there needs to be some urgency to this as we risk biodiversity loss, not even knowing what we're losing. Okay, so back to our owl. The Principe Scops Owl is small, measuring 6 to 8 inches in height, with feathers that are reddish, gray, and very dark brown. Their eyes are yellow, and their beaks range from a beige color to nearly black. It has small ear tufts and a soft light down on its chest. Its primary habitat is old-growth, undisturbed native rainforest, primarily in the lower elevations of the southern part of the island. Principe Island is located about 100 miles north of the equator, and it's small. Roughly only 25 square miles, with a population of less than 10,000 humans. In 2012, it was named a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in acknowledgement of its rich biodiversity, and the Parc Naturel Obo de Principe protects nearly half of its landmass. The park includes all of our owl's known habitat. Principe is a volcanic island with its oldest rocks dating to 31 million years ago. Its climate is tropical, with very mild variation in temperature across the year. Coolest lows are in the mid-70s, warmest highs are in the low 80s. It has 2 wet seasons, in March, April, May, and then again in October, November. The Principe Scops Owl shares its rainforest with kingfisher, mahogany trees, gecko, ibis, ebony trees, starling, oil palms, tree frogs, and puddle frogs, and of course many others. Though it has yet to be thoroughly studied, scientists suspect the Principe Scops Owl feeds on insects like grasshoppers, beetles, moths, and crickets. They hunt perched on tree branches, swooping quickly and quietly to the ground to seize their prey. They will also hunt flying insects in flight. The Principe Scops Owl main call is a quick sequence of identical, short, medium to low frequency notes. It's vocally active throughout the nighttime, but rarely sounds during the daylight. Both male and female vocalize individually and also in duet with one another. Females are thought to sing at a slightly higher frequency, which is like other species of Scops owl. In the dream, the owl calls its singular question, and I wonder of naming, and the old spell making, and of course curse making of a name spoke aloud. And in the dream, to risk mine with this bold Scops owl, its dark walnut feathers rustle in the leaf-mottled sunlight. Perhaps he is an archivist, the record keeper of his parliament, holding the memory of moa, dodo, bay thrush, painted vulture, great auk, Labrador duck, passenger pigeon, and all the lost kin who can no longer answer his question. Keeping safe their names in the dream. As for threats to their population, beginning as long ago as the 1600s, Principe's forests were cleared for sugar plantations, which more recently have been converted for growing coconuts, palm oil, and coffee. That said, deforestation is now rare in the owl's habitat. It's protected both locally and internationally, and as such, illegal logging is rare. Though, like any loss of large trees in its native habitat is likely to impact its population size. And small areas of the forest have been lost to development. A particular recent concern is the proposal for a hydroelectric dam along a river which flows northeast through the owl's protected habitat. The true impact of this development is unclear, but it might affect a small but significant section of the owl's habitat. And when population sizes are small, any habitat change is more troubling. The owl is also threatened by one native species, the Mona monkey, and by two introduced species, the black rat and feral cats that were domesticated, brought to the island, and then now run feral. There is a lot that we don't know about the Principe Scops Owl. It needs further research in general, and it warrants a single species conservation plan or to be added to ongoing conservation actions for Principe's other threatened bird species. Principe Scops Owl was placed on the critically endangered red list in 2023, and their population is currently in decline. It is estimated that there are only 1,600 Principe Scops Owl left in the wild. Research for today's show was compiled from the IUCN, the Macaulay Library at Cornell University, Animal Diversity Web at the University of Michigan, and from Wikipedia. In a moment, I would like to perform some music in hopes of opening a space to be in contemplation of the other lives with whom we share our earth. But first I want to clarify this idea that the music is not inspired by the Scops Owl. It's not for the Scops Owl. The Scops Owl is not a vessel from which I extract meaning or desire to put meaning upon. And so, what I want this music to do is express my very human awe. And to be a means to consider my own relationship to all other life. And in particular, life like the Principe Scops Owl that nears extinction. And so I will sit in the space of sound and awe and contemplation and reflection, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Principe Scops Owl. Though I only know one word of its language, I endeavor to hold its name in awe and remembrance gently on my lips. I'm grateful to have shared time on our small bright planet with this amazing little being. And I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. And so in the name of the Principe Scops Owl, I pledge to reduce my consumption and reduce my carbon footprint and curb my wastefulness. I pledge to address the costs of my actions and inactions. And I pledge to name and resist the harm of any kin or their habitat by corporations and governments. I pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin.